Our next session, the Founders Forum, features 3 entrepreneurs who will tell their stories. They will each come up on stage, one at a time, and followed by a brief discussion. Please welcome our 3 founders, Naren Shaam, founder and CEO of GoEuro, Jared Simon, COO and co-founder HotelTonight, and Tao Tao, co-founder and COO of GetYourGuide. Naren, you are up first.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. So I have 10 minutes to share a little bit more about GoEuro. I'm the CEO and founder, single founder. I don't normally present on stage, so it's one of my few. So I'll try to make it entertaining while I share a little bit about the company. The idea of GoEuro came to me roughly about 4 years ago. When I was traveling Europe, I studied in the US, and I traveled extensively in Europe. And most of the time, I was taking trains and buses across the continent. And most of the time, I struggled to buy tickets on my phone. So it's very as simple as that. So questions that all of us ask in terms of how do I get from Paris to Amsterdam? Very, very simple. Any guesses? There's trains, there's buses, and flights. And then the same thing across Europe, Florence to Rome, different rail company, 2 different rail companies, different buses, different country, currency, language, Berlin, Prague, Berlin, Frankfurt. So basically, Europe, for me, was and still is a massively dense network of transit systems that connect the whole continent. It's not just flights, it's also trains and buses. Most of the rail and buses in each of the market is mostly nationalistic, so state-owned operators, and buses in each of the country. And no one, I guess, before us brought all of this data together on a single platform across all of Europe. So this is basically, I guess, what happened in the airline industry or the hotel industry 10, 15 years ago. When I looked at this space, we saw ground transportation being massive, the amount of data being big. On average, there's roughly 200 to 400 train stations per airport in every single of the large countries, and then it scales. Majority of population in each of the countries travel by train and bus. And then anything beyond airports is hard to transact for customers, so Google kind of becomes you go to a small location like Heidelberg in Germany, Cambridge in the UK, The Hague in Netherlands. How do I get to The Hague? You go Google what's the closest airport to The Hague. It's probably Amsterdam. Go back to Google. How do I get from Amsterdam Schiphol to The Hague? So anything beyond just a single mode of travel becomes very hard for the customer. This is really what I started to build. So my vision for the company was very, very simple. Bring the world of, I guess, the world of transportation in Europe, if you can say it, in a click on mobile. So everything is very transactable. What we want to do is bring all the inventory across the whole continent. This is thousands of operators and connect it to millions of customers. Everything should be one click. Everything should be mobile. No more kiosks, no more paper transactions, no more standing in line, credit card, cash. All of that should be eliminated. So that's really what we're trying to build as GoEuro. So very quickly, where are we today? We operate in 14 countries. So each market is its own unique set of requirements. Work with state operating companies, rail, multiple buses, bring all their inventory online. So we're actually a very large engineering platform. We build full inventory management to bring all the inventory online. And then we also sell to customers. So we operate today in 14 countries. We partner directly with about 600 plus rail and bus companies in these 14 countries. And we serve roughly 60,000 to 80,000 unique destinations total. And we sell everything rail, buses, and flights. It's very simple. We are probably the largest single integrated platform for all this inventory in Europe today. We not only focus on the underlying technology, but we also focus on bringing very, very simple consumer experiences to the market. I'm a strong believer that when you can see the supply and demand, you can bring groundbreaking products to the market. Good examples of this are Amazon and Uber. So this is really what we try to build, a very simple end-to-end mobile experience. But it's not just in one country. We provide the same simple experience in every single market, unified across all. Currency, language, your own language, your own currency, mostly mobile. So this is what we do as GoEuro. In terms of consumer scale, we are now at roughly 10 million monthly active users. What's more interesting for us is that we are 70% mobile. We still have a desktop business, but really most of our innovation happens on mobile today. And we're 3.5 years old, so fairly young in terms of how far we've come. And still a long way to go. The space is very, very, very large. So I'm excited to see where the next 3.5 years gets us. So that's the last slide. Thank you very much.
A couple of questions, Naren. We'll start with one here.
My question is that you are saying that you have all Europe and integrated it, but I didn't see Greece in your map. Why is not Greece integrated in you?
Very good question. Assuming you're Greek?
That means I'm working for the Greek market and I am Greek, yeah.
Yes. So what we do in terms of integration is fairly engineering heavy. Normally we go after a full market in terms of contracts, integrations, all supply so that we can bring our product to customers. So because of that, roughly just for those of you, it takes at least a year to get all the contracts, and it takes us 3 to 6 months to integrate the engineering platform. So we can only go country by country. So 3 years ago, we were in, I think, 2 or 3 markets. 2 years ago, we were in more, and now we're in 14. So we literally have to go country by country. And we try to expand with adjacent markets because cross-border routes are a valuable piece we give to customers. So we'll get to Greece soon.
How many years?
How many years to get to Greece?
Yeah.
I don't know. In 3.5 years, we've gotten 14 countries. So in that's roughly a country every 3-4 months. So yeah. So we'll get there hopefully soon. Next 24 months, I would say, max.
I think it's an engineering really problem to put together. I was very impressed with the slides of all the different companies. There are very small companies around Europe. You said already how much work is behind your engineering, but it's really a tough work to put that together.
So yes, just to focus on the engineering, we have 150 engineers. So we plug in fully with ground transport inventory systems. Not everything is online, not everything is mobile. So we help a lot our suppliers to come online. So we do everything in terms of basic stuff like station geocodes. Where is the bus station? Where does the bus stop? Train stations, routing algorithms. So basically all of this inventory that's majority today sold offline or at the station, we bring it online. So engineering is probably the biggest challenge we started to tackle, and today probably our biggest asset as well.
Thank you to our first presenter, Naren Shaam, founder and CEO of GoEuro. And please welcome Jared Simon, COO, and co-founder, HotelTonight.
Hi, my name is Jared. I come from HotelTonight. Just very quickly for anyone who's not familiar, HotelTonight is I believe the world's only platform that is exclusively mobile and exclusively based on last-minute accommodations bookings. As I thought, the prompt here was talk about your founder path. And as I thought about our founder path here and thought about what might be relevant for this audience, it occurred to me that the thing that we're most proud of is the work we put into and the work we've done maintaining our values-based organization. Everything we do is based on a core set of values. And I thought that would be an interesting thing to talk about, mainly because it colors all our relationships with partners in the industry, many of whom are here in the audience. So to set some context, we started working on HotelTonight, came up with a product vision in the summer, early fall of 2010. We worked very, very quickly to launch the product by January of 2011. But before we started working on it, we were cognizant of the fact that this is the point in time when many startups sow the seeds of their own failure, because they create a product vision and get very enamored of the product vision, and don't realize that what makes a special company generally is not the product or the technology, it's the people that you hire and the types of decisions they make. And so in order to guide the types of people we hired and the types of decisions we made, it was important for us not to recreate that mistake. So we wanted to create a real value, a real people vision for HotelTonight, which we built in terms of a set of values that was core to what we do at HotelTonight. The values that we came up with, we expressed in three terms. The first is question, then build, and then respect. Question is pretty simple. It's a directive for all of us to continually question everything around us. We want to be innovators. We don't want to take anything for granted. We want to be questioning everything around the industry, around the world, around the way we do things, around the way personally I operate. But we don't want to just be questioning and talking about it. We also want to be building solutions. We don't want to just bat back and forth ideas and debate. We need to innovate and take those risks and get things out into market. The third value is respect, and that's the one that I'd really like to focus on here because I think it's most relevant to this audience, mainly because respect for us, well, the travel industry, particularly the accommodations industry, isn't known for the respect that OTAs pay to hotels. It's not a relationship that is where hotels are generally feel well treated. And that's a gap that we wanted to fill. That's the place in the industry where we wanted to fit in. So respect became very important to us. Respect is really, for us, synonymous with a sense of humility. And that humility is born out of a notion that, hotels have plenty of ways to distribute inventory. The only thing that was going to make HotelTonight special, and the only reason for us to be here, is if we found unique problems that exist in that process today for hotels and found novel solutions to those problems for hotels to make them more productive, to make them have more fun, to make their jobs easier. And that is really the core of what we do, and it's based on this notion of respect for hotels. We didn't always get this right over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. We've made mistakes along the way, and we've had to course correct, and I think that's what makes a successful startup, is it's a company that can recognize when it's going wrong, when it's lost its path, and when it can course correct, particularly if there's a consistent set of values orienting all these decisions, a North Star that the company can point itself at. And that was very, very important to us as well, and it has resulted in our success. So some examples of where we started to get it wrong and we've course corrected along the path. The first one is my background is with the big OTAs. I come from a big OTA. And so when we first started HotelTonight, the first thing we needed was a supply agreement. And many of you who are hoteliers in the audience have seen the traditional supply agreement. It's 20 pages long. It's got tons of restrictions and obligations, and it's basically illegible. And that's what I started with because that's all I knew. And for about 6 months, that's what we operated with until we realized, hey, wait a second. Our value proposition is supposed to be something different. We respect the fact that hoteliers know how to run hotels. We don't know how to run a hotel, so why are we telling them everything they need to do and they can't do in our agreement? So we cut out that contract and we reduced it to 20 sentences. It's on a page and a half. The lawyers hated us. My investors were a little bit concerned, but it was the right move because it set up the relationships with the hotels in a good way, and we've used this supply agreement ever since. There are no obligations in this supply agreement. There are no restrictions. Hotels can do anything they want on the HotelTonight platform, and that's given hotels a lot of comfort to trust us, to work with us, and it's allowed us to persevere through plenty of pressure that our competitors put on hotels who work with us, and it's allowed us to grow as a result. Another good example, speaking of my OTA background, I come from the OTA background, and I thought, well, hey, why don't I just hire a bunch of market managers to manage relationships with hotels who come from previous OTA experience? And we experimented with that in the beginning, but realized very quickly that these market managers, while terrific people, come with a set of processes and essentially training that was old school, in our opinion. And if our purpose is to disrupt the way OTAs work with hotels and treat hotels with respect, we need to bring people in who didn't have that kind of baggage. So we set a rule early on at HotelTonight that we weren't going to hire anybody from any other OTA, which was a crazy rule. We had stacks of CVs from people who wanted to come work at HotelTonight. They knew the industry, they had Rolodexes. It would have been very efficient and productive for us to hire those people. We set ourselves back. We were slow as a result of hiring only people who have no background in the travel industry. But as a result, we got really, really talented, smart, creative, ambitious people who just wanted to solve problems and didn't have any preordained notions of how it was supposed to work. So we were able to present ourselves to hotels as a very creative resource to work with them to generate last-minute bookings in a creative way. Similarly, we're all probably familiar with Googling a hotel and finding that the first several paid listings are all OTAs that have bid on the hotel's keywords. And that was the marketing plan that we set out to engage in as well, because it works, and it's smart, and it's easy, and we're good at it. But we realized before we even started, this was antithetical to our notion of respect for hotels. So we stopped it before we even started and made a rule that we weren't going to bid on any hotel keywords ever at HotelTonight, and we've kept with that for the last 6 or 7 years. Now, that's crazy. It certainly slowed our growth in the early days, but it forced us to come up with really creative solutions for how to market HotelTonight in ways that didn't conflict with our hotels so that we could be truly incremental to our hotel partners as a result, and that was a sign of respect as well. Finally, as a really interesting, challenge we faced that was unique to Europe, unique to this market, when we first went into Europe, we went into London in June of 2012, and we didn't have a whole lot of resources, we didn't have a whole lot of money, and so we put an office in London and staffed it with Americans who came from our head office in San Francisco. And we made the classic, what I learned was the classic American, ugly American Silicon Valley mistake, which was essentially to treat Europe as we grew as a country. And we staffed that office in London with more Americans and tried to run Europe that way. It turns out that Europe is a collection of many different countries, and they all have unique challenges and all have unique cultures and all have unique concerns, all of which we needed to treat uniquely. And it took us a while to learn this. It took us about 2 years, frankly, to figure this out finally. But we finally figured it out and started launching additional offices throughout Europe, staffed with native speakers for each country that we are live in, which is about 30 across Europe at this point. So as a result, we could treat our hotel partners with a tremendous amount more respect as a result of understanding their specific concerns, their specific needs, their specific challenges in specific countries. So this is one that took us a bit longer to get right, but I'm glad that we have. We're still working on it, however. It's a work in process for sure. As I was preparing this, and I re-looked at this old wireframe that we created in the very beginning. We drew the product design on a wall in our first office and ripped it off the wall and took it to our current office. It was amazing to me to look at this and realize how similar this diagram is to, this wireframe is to the way the product works today. The consistency was kind of staggering to me, given all the changes it feels like we've gone through over the last several years. But what occurred to me as a result is the importance of that consistency, not only in terms of the product vision, but also in terms of the people vision. And it's taken a lot of work for us to stay true to the values orientation, the question, build, and respect throughout all the zigs and zags and the roller coaster ride of running a startup. But I'm really proud of the fact that we've worked really hard to maintain that focus on that values orientation, particularly as we move from a startup that was burning lots of money to a profitable company that has a long life ahead of it. We could have abandoned some of these principles, and it would have been easy to abandon them in the service of becoming a profitable, large, growing company. But we didn't. We stayed true to our core values of flexibility for hotels and ownership at the hotel level. And we're really proud of that, and it's worked for us. And that is the advice that I'd give to any founder of any startup. Set your values, stay true to them, stay consistent, and things will fall into place. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared,
stay
there.
Questions.
Stay there. I have a question from you. Let's say you are squeezed between the two giants selling hotel rooms, Expedia and Priceline. Is there life?
Is there life? Look, I mean, we've got enough to do focusing on building a great product for what we do, which is very, very specific. We're fortunate that we have chosen piece of real estate that when we first chose it, mobile last-minute bookings, when we first chose it was pretty niche. But I think we can all agree that it is becoming the mainstream very, very quickly. And we see that in our triple-digit growth. We're still growing at triple digits 7 years into this. We believe that we have chosen a really good space, and as long as we stay very, very focused on doing what we do better than anybody else, we are where the world is moving. We already exist there, and we don't have to worry about, we don't have time to worry about what anyone else is doing, frankly. We need to worry about what we're doing.
Second question, very briefly. Sam Shank, a few months ago, has announced your project to be public. Is that going to happen soon?
Well, I think what he actually talked about was our desire to put ourselves in a position to have that option to go public. And that is exactly what we're working on. That was part of the plan to become profitable. There's lots of other initiatives we're undertaking at the company. Our goal is to put ourselves in a position where that option is available to us should the need arise. But an IPO, like anything else, is a financing event, and we would only undertake that if we needed financing or we saw some opportunity to raise additional funding, or there was some opportunity that created an interest in an IPO. But by putting ourselves in that position, it opens up a world of opportunities for us. Our goal is to build a company that outlives all of us, and that is part of it.
Hi, Kevin Matey, News.com. Hi. I'm really interested in the culture side of the business. I mean, you started out as being very single-minded, with people could purchase a hotel for that night, and that was the vision. And then you changed that. I can't remember how quickly it was, but it was reasonably quickly. How did you communicate that within the organization that, okay, we need to change now, and it's not the original proposition, and then it changed again, and et cetera, et cetera?
That's a great question, and it was something we were concerned about when we moved from same day to now it's a 7-day window. The reality, what we learned is, frankly, the way I travel is I don't book anything until same day. That's the way I've always traveled. That's the way I enjoy traveling. And so when we came up with the original vision, we knew we wanted to fill this last-minute space. And last minute for us meant same day. That's just the way we travel. But what we realized when we talked to the rest of the community at HotelTonight and the community at large, when you ask people what a last-minute hotel booking is, 9 out of 10 people are going to say anything within a week is last minute. So we recognized that we were cutting off a significant portion of the market that we originally tried to tackle. And that was internally as well as externally. So frankly, explaining it to the company was a lot easier than we expected it would be. This made a lot of sense to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Jared. Jared Simon, CEO and co-founder, HotelTonight. And it's time for our last presenter. Please welcome Tao Tao, co-founder and COO, GetYourGuide.
Good afternoon. When Simon asked me to present at Phocuswright, and he told me I could talk about anything, so that was a risk he took. And I was thinking about some of the best talks I've heard at Phocuswright many years ago, and the ones I liked were the practical. Here are 3 things you have to do to be successful. So I'm going to show you. Here are 3 things you have to do to be successful. Kind of presentation, and focus on unconventional learnings. So these are some of the things that we've learned in the last 8 to 9 years of operating GetYourGuide that they don't teach you in startup school. Just briefly for context, what GetYourGuide is, it's an online platform for booking tours, attractions, activities, 30,000 amazing things to do in, I think, 1,500 destinations worldwide in 14 languages. So this is just for context, and this is the view, I think, from the Eiffel Tower. The first lesson I want to share with is build things that don't scale. What does it mean? Why is it unconventional? So it's unconventional because as a startup, the basic essence of a startup is to build scalable things. Scalable things are profitable. You have economies of scale. Very unscalable ideas are often dismissed internally. I often catch myself asking someone who's proposing an idea, but does this truly scale? Now, one of the examples we had back in 2010 was we were just launching the site, 1 year in operations, active for the German market, and we needed to address more markets. By definition, if you're a travel company, you're dealing with many customers going from many different places into many different destinations. That means you have to build a multilingual site. Now, the scalable thing to do back then would have been to say, go to translation agencies or go to use some tools and just send them our tours. I think back then we had maybe 500 tours, have them translated, send it back. That would have been a scalable thing to do. Now, instead, because we were 5 engineers and natural scientists, we thought, let's build a system that does it. So we spent maybe 2 months of 100% of our engineers, which was one co-founder, CTO, to build an entire translation management system from scratch. So we had to completely take out our existing stack, build the database using temporal databases so we could do revision tracking, which I think even Google Docs barely had back then. Now, in retrospect, 1 year later, we thought we were completely crazy. We should have been focusing our engineering efforts on growth, on customer acquisition, on conversion rate, and all these things. But as we now look back many years back, it was one of the best things we could have done. Having built the system ourselves allows us to have unit economics in terms of scaling the content that we have today, which is tens of thousands of tours and hopefully in the future hundreds of thousands of activities worldwide, is only possible with this kind of a system that gives you the unit economics you need. So this was a lesson we learned, is that building something scalable can be a trap. And the things that truly, truly scale always start from something that's very unscalable. So this was one of the lessons we've learned as we built the system looking back. The second lesson that we learned is customer beats business model. Now, this is unconventional because it's, in a way, super obvious. Customer centricity and customer first, customer obsession, everybody talks about it. But it's also unconventional because so few companies do it on a regular basis, just as we didn't. I'll take you back to 2008 when my co-founders and I, we started a peer-to-peer tour guide platform that had this amazing design. And we thought, hey, this is an amazing model. So peer-to-peer wasn't really a buzzword back then, but there was eBay. And we thought, let's do an eBay for tour guides. That would be an amazing idea. I could be a tour guide in Berlin. My friend could be a tour guide in Boston. And whenever I go, I have a local everywhere you go. I was signing up tour guides in China during the Olympics, going to campuses and telling people, hey, sign up as a tour guide, get a free chicken wing. And we actually signed up a lot of tour guides. So that worked really, really well. Now, 1 year later into the business, we had maybe 5 bookings without those from our parents. So we had 5 bookings, so essentially a platform that didn't work. And then we started to do the one thing that we should have done, is talk to actual customers. And when we talked to customers, we found out that if you're a family from Breda or from Den Bosch here in the Netherlands, and it's your first time going to New York, you don't want to go on a tour with random Joe. You want to see the Empire State Building. You want to take a Hudson River cruise. You want to fly a helicopter, maybe take a day trip to Niagara Falls. So we had to actually listen to the customers and change our business model completely and focus on these professional activities. So I guess the lesson we've learned here is, however, this is not a singular event. Every day we do things that follow processes, hiding behind processes and proxies and decision-making heuristics that make life easy. But we have to constantly challenge ourselves to think, is this truly what customers really, really, really want? And are we truly ruthlessly listening to the customer? The third lesson is effort beats everything. Again, sounds trivial because, yeah, if you want to be successful, you have to work hard. Now, the reason it's unconventional is because if you think about it, if you think about the most successful travel company you know, or think about the most successful tech company you know, and think about why do you think they were so successful? I bet not all of you, but the first thing a lot of people think about, if you think about a Google, if you think about a Facebook, they were smarter. They came up with the best algorithm. They were located in Silicon Valley so they could raise more funding, and all these different things, right? All these factors, external factors that lead to a company's success. When I talk to people today, journalists, other founders, other travel companies, they tell us the thing we're doing, tourist activities, is blindingly obvious. It's a huge market. You're based in Berlin, which is cool. Like all the tech founders are from Berlin, like Naren from GoEuro. There's a lot of talent available. You guys are just good at raising money, so if you have money, things are easier. Now, when we started the business in 2009, tourist activities was the least sexy thing you can think of. We were banging on doors to tell people about tours and activities. We were based in Zurich and bootstrapped the company for 2 years, which is the last place you want to bootstrap a company in. We, I think, paid ourselves 2,000 Swiss francs, which is around 35% of the minimum wage. for 2 years. I moved to Berlin because we needed customer service, so I just moved by myself with 2 bags, started there. There was competition. There were companies better funded than we were. There were companies started before us. There are companies started after us doing the exact same thing. So sure, luck is a factor, but certainly perseverance and time was one of the key things we learned. Now, another reason why effort beats everything is it's not an easy message because it's uncomfortable. So very often, if probably many managers in the room, sometimes you just want to tell someone just work harder, right? But that's like a dumb thing to say. Like work harder. What do you mean? Like we're smart people, white collar, educated. Work harder is a very, very uncomfortable message to tell people. This is Joe Montana. He was a quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, won 4 Super Bowl rings. There's a very great book by Bill Walsh, The Score Takes Care of Itself, talking in one of the episodes about Joe Montana, saying Joe Montana, in his last season at Kansas, already won 4 Super Bowl rings, 3 MVP Super Bowl, was still practicing every day near a college near his home for 2 hours doing the most basic drills that bore a high schooler to death. And the reason he was doing it is because he understood that this is what it takes to attain mastery. So I think the key lesson here is success is a choice. Growth is a choice. It doesn't mean that if you don't choose high effort or don't choose success, that it's a bad decision. It is a decision. It's a life decision. But it also means that if you want to choose success and winning, then this is what it takes. There's a great book by Angela Duckworth talking about it. And she says how effort is about direction, intensity, and duration. I think the best analogy would be a marathon. If you think about a marathon, and it's an often used analogy when people say, you know, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. But the one component that people forget about the marathon is the intensity. A real marathon runner runs the 42K at 20 kilometers an hour. I don't run that even for 1 kilometer. So it's the direction, very single-mindedness pursuit of that, the intensity at which they run, and the duration. Now, this is a very depressing message, right? Effort, and you just have to work hard. But at the same time, there's an optimistic, liberating underlying theme in this is because the ability to work hard, the ability to put in effort is the most equally distributed skill in the world. Everybody can choose to opt in. So I think our lesson here was that luck plays a huge role. But the differentiator that you see in many of these businesses in this room that were initially built, it takes a long time, very single-minded focus, and running at the same intensity. So we still work, I think, the same hours as day one because it's also very fun. Biz Stone, one of the co-founders of Twitter, once famously said that timing, perseverance, and 10 years of trying will eventually make you look like an overnight success. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Tao. I'll do the first question, which is, I recently saw a research from Phocuswright, of course, that showed that there are almost 200 companies, 200 startups, which are looking into their tools and activities with more than 800 million funding. So with giant like you, Viator, and Airbnb, of course, is there a space still?
Yeah, I think there's 2 ways to look at the question. One is from an execution point of view, meaning if you think about as a company, as a startup, if I enter this market, what would be my entry strategy? Can I compete? Can I execute? I don't know. But I think the other question to ask is, how big is the market and how much is already taken? The market is, according to Phocuswright, 100 billion or more, 100 billion market size. The online market share is maybe 1% aggregated. So that means 99% of the market for online is still up for grabs. So from that perspective, it's certainly an interesting market to enter.
Right. Can you tell us also something about your newest deal with EasyJet, for example?
Sure. So EasyJet is one of our partners that we've launched recently to help because, in fact, EasyJet is a great example because we often talk about the EasyJet generation. You have these now fully affordable trips you can take for one day. We recently flew for 30 euros from Berlin to London for a team event because our budget for a team event is 30 euro per person, and someone found a really cheap flight, so we took a day trip. And so it's a perfect customer. It's people who want to experience the city and can take these things in destinations. So EasyJet is one of our partners, and we work with many other airlines and OTAs. And it's early, but we're quite happy with the results.
All right. Do we have other questions from the floor? We don't, I'll sim, so I'll thank you. Tao Tao, CEO and co-founder of GetYourGuide. Thank you very much.